Ah, man. I forgot to bring cutlery. Damn. Hi, everyone. That took a turn. Right before I started the go live, food has arrived, but I forgot any sort of cutlery. But I have wonderful glazed cauliflower that I can smell and look at, but can't really eat properly unless whatever. How's everyone doing? Happy 2021. Yay! Isn't that great? Life's weird. Yeah, I do hope that you all had a good couple of days of rest, hopefully, between 2020 and 21. Had a good New Year's Eve, hopefully. I did. We did. Was great. Very calm, very chill. Not a bad things. Hands you won't judge. That's great, Dave, but I would judge because it's very sticky. I could maybe, can I eat it just with my mouth without touching the thing? I can try at least, I guess. No. Actually, I mean, it isn't pretty, but it works. Oh, thanks, Caroline. Caroline, probably. Happy New Year to you too. As I said, I hope that you're all healthy and safe, and you had a good start into 2021. Honestly, the end of the year kind of like, I don't know. I basically, throughout 2020, I kept running and working and doing things. And kind of the momentum was there, but then I stopped for a few days and then I completely crashed. And I enjoyed time off. Have been doing a lot of diving. And that helped a lot. But I have basically taken the first week to recover. I'm now back or getting back into action. I'm not back in the action yet, but I'm getting back into the action. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Eduardo. Woo! Lots of people I know and lots of new friends as well here. That's great to hear. I hope that you all have a great time now as you are getting into your day-to-day routine as well. I mean, the situation in the US, Jesus, what is going on there? I hope that everyone here is safe and sound and is doing okay. So how has your first couple of days in 2021 been? Are you back to work? Are you still resting? Are you having time off still? Or what's going on? It seems like social media is a little more quiet than usual, which is a good thing, generally speaking, I would say. But yeah. Michelle, I guess. I do dive locally. So here in Switzerland, we went diving in Lake Zurich, Hermitage and WZT and Riff Williams and Kleiner Parkplatz, and then Lake Zug. So Klauseneck and Zigeunerplätzli and Baumgärtli. Yeah, I think those have been the three that we've done there. And then also we took to Lake Lucerne for 2 dives in Rietsort. So really nice. Cold water dives, bunch of fish actually still in the water. Fantastic visibility. Really, really nice. Cool, Matthew. What new role did you start? What have you been doing beforehand? What are you doing now? That's interesting. Starting a new role in the new year. Oh, Dave, you're still chilling. You're still coasting on the break. That's lovely. But yeah, I did need the downtime as well. So I understand that it's a good idea to take as much as you need before you pick things back up. And Monday is still far away, right? Hi, Henning. How's Barcelona doing? That's lovely. Lots of lovely people here. I did get a few questions through the form. And I can actually reload the form just to make sure that I'm having, the latest version. So there are long-winded questions on breadcrumbs and stuff. And I'm like, just don't overthink it. Really, don't overthink it. Regarding the upcoming May update, will Google take into account and aggregate data of the whole site? No, it's a per page signal, so no. Do you prefer oh, that's a good question. Ooh. From SEO manager to SEO manager, from agency to in-house. Oh, nice. In-house. That's lovely. What do you mean no sound? People are responding to my questions, so people should be able to hear me. Oh, also moving from agency to in-house. I'm wondering, like, what's it like to work in an SEO agency? I haven't really done that. I mean, I have worked in a web agency. If you are working as in an agency setting, is that just an SEO agency, or what do these agencies actually do that you work for? I'm actually using hands now because, whatever. It's 2021. We live in the future. There's sound. That's great. Henning, I'm very sorry. This might be a problem on your end. Why am I wearing headphones? I could listen to music. Nah. This glazed cauliflower is delicious. There's always food and drink with me, isn't it? Last time I did this, I was drinking tea, if I remember correctly, and eating chocolate. Well, chocolate. Hi, Iman. Right. So I know, Eduardo, I did get my hands dirty, but I have tissues here, so that should be more or less fine. Big cutlery, yeah, it's a scam. Wake up, sheeple! Don't use cutlery. I know, yeah. And Eduardo will probably remember this. I used to work in a company where we had to track hours, and at some point we had this gigantic magic ticket. It was literally called the magic ticket. Or was it? It might have been called Magic and Unicorns. I'm not so sure. But basically, we locked time into that because no one really cared enough to stop us from doing that. But we had to track our time so that on the dashboards, we would show up as has logged this many hours. We're like, yeah, we logged this many hours. We're just not working on any projects because we were on an internal department. So we didn't really have customer projects directly. So it didn't really make sense for us to log the time, but we were supposed to do that anyway. So we locked it into a bullshit ticket. Oh, that was big. Oh. I apologize. That was bigger than I thought. My goodness. As business intelligence, CRM, and SEO in one. Okay, that makes sense. What is the PFUDR? What's the FUDOR experience? I shall use my non-dirty hand to Google that. It's so hard to use my mouse with the other hand. Pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows. Yes, it was. It was a fun situation. Full stack marketing agencies. I love that full stack is a much broader term than I thought. Because there's a discussion if in the developer circles you should even use full stack. To which I would reply yes. If you do the full spectrum of whatever application you're building, then yes, you should. But it's, some people frown upon it. It's interesting. Yeah, but that's not just an SEO problem. There are many web agencies full of developers who also then have to deal with a lot of process overhead, and they're not really. And it's weird because as a web agency, you are kind of incentivized to not do great work. Because if let's hypothetically say you do the best kind of work you can do. So your project comes in, you build that website, you're done. You kind of lost the customer there because they have their website, they're happily chugging along without you. But if you make it somewhat working, but somewhat slightly broken, you can basically extend the contract, I guess. I don't know. That's the feeling I had in some of the agencies that I've seen. I'm eating glazed cauliflower from a Korean restaurant nearby. And God, it is good. Look at this. It's glazed cauliflower. I'm so reluctant to get my second hand dirty as well. But I kind of need to split these when I have a really full mouth situation in a second again. But right, so there is one question that was submitted by a confused developer / SEO asking, do you prefer coding or do you get more joy out of the DevRel and outreach work you do? Oh my. I would argue it is good, trust me. It might not look fantastic, but it's like deep fried cauliflower. It's amazing. Where's the tissue? So, and I'm doing this in my free time. I don't even know why I'm doing this, but I enjoy this kind of conversations. Do you prefer coding or more the DevRel outreach side? The two are not independent of each other. I enjoy solving problems for humans. And that's an important sentence. Like every part of that sentence is well deliberated. I enjoy solving problems. But if it's solving the problem for the sake of the problem, it's not interesting. Like puzzling or math puzzles or something, I'm like, as long as there's no human being who's like, oh my God, I need this solved, and I'm not interested in this math puzzle. So the sheer coding for coding's sake is really not my kind of thing. It's not my cup of tea. If I am coding to build a thing that humans then use to do something more efficiently, easier, quicker, more often, whatever, I like that. I'm down for that. So whenever I fix bugs or implement something that I hope people will then use and find useful, that makes me very happy and gives me joy. At the same time, solving problems for humans does not necessarily involve coding. If there's someone out there who has a problem and asks a question in the office hours and I can help them overcome the problem or solve the problem and then move on with their lives happily ever after, then that brings me joy as well. What doesn't bring me as much joy if people are asking, it's not stupid questions. It is either questions that have been broadly discussed, as in like, if you Google the question for like 5 seconds, you find the answer to it. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll tell you the answer, but why are we having this conversation again? Like, why is it like this is so broadly known? And yet, obviously, I don't want to come across as cocky here because everyone starts at some point, right? We all started. And like 2 or 3 years ago, I didn't have the answers that I have today. So it is legitimate to ask the questions. It's just not very exciting or interesting. It still brings me some joy because I helped someone. That's great. But there are a few interesting questions that aren't getting a lot of airtime. So it's like an interesting thing. But I wouldn't say like, is it coding or the outreach? It is coding and the outreach, and the fact that I hopefully get a human reaction on the other side of whatever I'm doing is what I'm striving for. It's one of the reasons why I picked up magic tricks as a hobby instead of lockpicking. I tried lockpicking. I opened my first lock at some point. I'm like, yay, I opened the lock. That I had closed for the sole purpose of me opening it without a key. Didn't really give me the joy and satisfaction. You do a magic trick, you fool someone, they are like, wow, that was amazing. I didn't expect that. Then you're like, yes, a human reaction on the other side. That's what I'm striving for. Ooh, and then there's like a bunch of stuff happening here. So I'm hearing some SEO saying, based on John Miller, I think that schema markup should not be a big of a priority because people are overusing it. What are your thoughts? Oh, I mean, what should be a priority is to be answered on a case-by-case basis, I would say, because it's a little like a barrel full of water. It's made out of different pieces of wood, and if one piece of wood is shorter, the water will overflow at that point. It doesn't matter what you do on the other pieces of wood. If you make them longer, it will still continue flowing over that one short piece. And what I'm trying to say is that it really depends on what's your situation. If you have great content, and you are in a niche that is very competitive, and it's something that also potentially is very visual and maybe has rich results, then it can be like you can continue to improve the content quality, but you won't get the exposure you want in the search results because you're not having structured data. Then structured data can make a really big difference if you get it implemented correctly. And that's the thing that people forget. Implementing structured data does not mean that you will get a rich result. It's not a guarantee. It's just making you eligible for it. So it could be that by implementing it, you become eligible for a rich result and nothing happens and you're not showing up as a rich result. And it made no difference at all, at least not in the search result ranking sense. But if you are getting a rich result and then you get more impressions and more clicks and you're seeing a difference, then great. It can be very powerful. It doesn't have to be very powerful. On the other hand, having a site where the content is pretty bad and everything else is in bad shape, like we can't crawl as much, your server is flaky, the site has been hacked, all this kind of stuff that would drag you down anyway, then implementing structured data is definitely not your first priority. So priority-wise, I wouldn't overestimate it, but I would also not underestimate it, depending on the site in question. It's a case-by-case thing that I will look into. But generally, it tends to be overused, but I don't think that's a bad thing, because what you're doing is you give additional semantics to computer systems, and computer systems can then use these additional semantics to better understand your content. Again, if you have good content in the first place, it shouldn't be as bad, and then it becomes the thing of rich result eligibility or not. But it's not like the silver bullet, and it's not the pinnacle of SEO. You don't have to do it. You can do it if it makes sense for your niche, for your site. I wouldn't be too worried about it. Caroline asking, what do you think technical SEO should focus on in 2021? Yesterday, I read about a few Lighthouse updates, and I'm not sure where to start to get a deeper perspective for my recommendations. Aha. Hi, Maria. You're welcome, Michelle. Hi, Grant. Thank you. Likewise. Happy New Year to you as well. 2021, I'm really bad at predicting the future. I am very careful with making predictions for the future. And 2021 is mostly future still. Lighthouse updates. So I think... where's GitHub? I'm not sure what the next update will be like, but I think they have some sort of roadmap or something that you can look into. Blah, 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 blah. Lighthouse scoring guide. Yeah, but that's like what they have now. What will be the update in the future? Right. Generally speaking, we agreed upon the core web vitals being the thing that we look at in search, starting in May. So that's something that you definitely want to learn more about. You can learn about more about this at web.dev/vitals. There's like lots of in-depth information. It also tells you how to measure it with different tools and in different settings, and then get a feeling for how your site is doing across the core web vitals, because the core web vitals are definitely going to be important in the future. We do say that we might update them once a year. That would probably be in May as well. So there might be an update of the core web vitals, but I'm not aware of anything. There hasn't been any announcements around that as far as I'm aware. maybe the thresholds do change a little bit, but I'm not aware of any announcements in terms of what will happen there in the near future. So I would not worry too much about that, except for actually looking into the core web vitals, unless you have already done that. If you haven't done that so far, then now is a good time to start. 6 months back would have also been a good time to start. I'm not seeing anything here that yells at me like, oh, we are going to update everything in the issue tracker. But maybe that is happening soonish. So yeah. Regarding performance in JavaScript frameworks and stuff like that, I think pretty much all JavaScript frameworks are aware of the core web vitals coming up, or being a metric now, or being that's actually not true. Being a set of metrics that we are looking at now as our best understanding for what web performance looks like. So I guess they're all looking into how to optimize for things. But again, you measure the core web vitals and you get a feeling for how your website's doing. And that should pretty much be it. There's nothing specifically about JavaScript frameworks that you need to take into account 2021. I looked at JavaScript frameworks in 2018 and 2019 again, and they're mostly out of the box doing the right things. Developers can always misconfigure things or build things in a way that makes it slower. And that's something that the core web vitals should catch if done right. Simple question. Oh, simple questions are usually not simple questions, but let's see. Because the client is going crazy over a recommendation they received. HTML sitemap for easier crawl. Nah. They have many deep pages, or should they just improve the improve your internal linking? Yes. Yes. And if they really, really, really think that they need that and have like millions of URLs that they want in the index, XML sitemap, not an HTML sitemap. I would go with an XML sitemap if it needs to be grand. But again, like if it's, I don't know, 100,000 pages, then yeah. And also, how important are these deep pages really? Yeah, if it's not millions of pages, then probably a sitemap is overkill. Or, it's never wrong to have a sitemap. I think some of my personal websites that have like 100 pages or something have a sitemap. Just why not? I generate it automatically. But I don't really like it. It's pointless. It's not needed in my case, and it is needed in cases where you have like millions of URLs. But even then, oftentimes its importance is overstated in many cases. Unless you do see a problem where it's like, oh, you have lots of pages that get added, but they're not very well interlinked with the other parts of the page. Other parts of the site. And Google is not discovering them, or is not discovering them quickly enough, then you can speed that up a little bit by submitting a sitemap. That's the discovery, and discovery is then followed by crawling. And if you're like, yeah, we don't really need to crawl it that often, you're not really winning that much. You're increasing the funnel at the very top, but then like the rest does not catch up. Eventually, you just get like backlog, and then you're back at square one. What's your view on websites deploying AMP to improve their web visibility, and how that centralizes control of the web into a single company, which is Google? Right, that's fun. So AMP is a complex topic, and I have a multifaceted relationship to it. AMP is different things. AMP really is a bunch of components, or a framework, if you want to call it a framework, that you can make websites in a way that they are fast by default, unless you do something really, really stupid. Like the AMP guidelines give you kind of a paved path towards a fast performant website. That's fantastic. AMP has components for web stories. That's also great. Like, it's so easy to build visually appealing and interesting storytelling formats in your content using AMP stories. I really like that. I really, really do enjoy that. And because of this, we know a few things. Like if you are producing valid AMP and there's nothing strange happening in there, then again, you have a website that is fast by default. That's great. Now, there is a thing. Okay, let's rewind. Let's have a look at the perspective from the search engine. We know that users love getting their content quickly, as in like you click on the website. It doesn't matter if it's in a search engine or not. You go to a website and it's there right away. It's snappy, it's fast. You can interact with the website. It's great. Love it. Great. So we know that that's the case. Sweet. But how can we find that out as a search engine where we are crawling pages, rendering pages? Sure. So we get some data about how fast things are. We can maybe also look it up in the Chrome User Experience report to find out how fast things are. But then it already starts with like, okay, but what is fast? Like, how do you measure fast? And this has been changing a lot, right? And we're now talking pre-Core Web Vitals. Like this has been an evolving understanding. And then there was this idea of specifying preload so that you can say like, oh, look, if you're going to this website, then please preload these other pages so that the browser has done all the work of downloading stuff over a potentially shaky, flaky, slow mobile network. And so that if I change to the next page, it's right there. But that had privacy implications because if you were to do that, if you like would pre-render it, really like completely executing all the JavaScript in the background and all that so that the page is immediately there. And you can't just load the page, because if it's just loading a JavaScript, unless you execute that JavaScript, you would still not really get the full benefit of that. So pre-render would be a fantastic idea. So like you pre-render the page before you're even there. But it also has privacy implications because then you make a network connection to a server that is potentially like if I am, let's say my website is example.com, and I know that in my case, maybe I redirect you to different, I don't know, car manufacturers, right? And I'm like, okay, so I show them a Honda and an Audi and a Ford, and I know that they might click on one of these three, and it's the specific pages. I know which pages, which particular cars I'm showing you, so I can show you the product pages basically as links. And now I want you to have a very snappy, fast experience. So I want the browser to pre-render the website from Ford, Audi, and Honda, for instance, right? But now a bad thing happens because your phone, your computer, whatever it is that your browser is on, is now making a network request. It talks to the servers from Ford, Honda, and Audi. But I haven't really done that. I haven't explicitly, like if I tap on the link, I'm like, I want to go to Ford and want to look at that car. Great, that's fantastic because I initiated that action. I'm kind of okay with going there, right? But I'm not doing that. It's your website, example.com, is telling my phone to go to these three websites in the background without me even knowing. And what if I don't go to any of these three car manufacturers' websites, if I'm bouncing? Then now we have made a connection to these servers, and it is impossible to know if I have been willingly going there or if I have been tricked into going there. And also, this is now transmitting information because now my IP address shows up at their logs, right? So now they could hypothetically say like, oh, so there was this person in Zurich at this time of the day looking at a Ford car. And then they can maybe correlate that with data that they get elsewhere. Then they're like, oh, so this might be the Split guy from Zurich, so we'll show them more ads or something. That's not great. So we can't really do like a preload thing because that would connect to servers that could do things with your data that you are not okay with. But what about if we had, so you kind of are already working with us, trusting us if you go to Google search. Like if you go to googlesearch.com, you are talking to us. That's nice. I like that. Good stuff. And what if we could preload a page without going to a third-party server? So what if we had a cache? We had a buffer server kind of, where we would get the content from their server, from Ford.com, from Honda.com, from what was the other one, Audi.com, and we would pull the data. So they only see us pulling it. They can't really do much with that information. Google pulled the information in. Okay, cool. That's it. Great. And now we would, in search results, if we know that this would work and would be fast because it's AMP, so it's kind of default fast, we would show you this thing, and we could pre-render it in the background, because you're not then tapping into this third-party situation where like the stuff that we pre-rendered actually makes connections and phones home to the different car manufacturers. It only phones to us, and you're already talking to us, so that's not a problem. And that's the other component of AMP. That's the AMP cache. That's the thing that kind of allows us to pre-render things, and also allows us to do lots of optimizations and like distribute it across the world, like basically a free CDN, so it always comes from the nearest data center we have. Blah blah blah. I see why we invented that. I do see why it's problematic, because that is against the decentralized principle. I don't have a good answer to get the benefits of it without the downsides of it. So I am very careful, like criticizing that concept, because it's not meant in a bad way. I understand how it comes across. I understand the conversation about it. It is controversial and it is problematic, but I understand the benefits, and I don't have a better solution to give you these benefits. We kind of mitigated that as much as we can by saying like, okay, so it doesn't have to be our server. If you want to run your own, right? If you want to pre-render things, then run your own thing. And we need to figure out how to do that so that we can be sure that it comes from the original source. And that's the signed exchange infrastructure, which is interesting, exciting, and has been an interesting engineering feat, in my opinion. But it hasn't it hasn't caught on, because I think it is quite expensive and tricky to run the infrastructure necessary for that kind of stuff. And a lot of people just don't care. They just want the little batch in search, which we experimented with, like the little lightning bolt. It's like, oh yeah, I want that. And then they don't care about the whole implications of that. So AMP as a framework to build fast websites, awesome. For web stories, fantastic. The central AMP cache, controversial, tricky. I understand why it has been invented. I understand what benefits it brings. I also understand the risks that come in. And I am, maybe that's the thing because I'm German, but I'm always looking into like what happens if this all is at some point like going down south. Yes, we are all coming with best intentions, and we're doing our best to do good things at Google, but it's not always in our hands, right? What if everyone gets fired and then like some other people take over and these people are not as nice? I understand the conservation here, reservations here, and I understand that, and I take that seriously, and I think the team takes it serious as well, which is exactly why they're looking into the signed exchange stuff, as well as core web vitals are a way to say like, okay, so we can make certain guarantees is a little hard to say, but like basically we know that this site is generally fast in the real world. So we know that users are probably having a good time clicking on without us having to pre-render anything. And we cannot pre-render because that would mean that you would phone to the other sites that are showing up in search, and that's all a mess. And so we're not doing that. So AMP is a really tricky yet interesting topic, I think. And my view on websites deploying AMP to improve their web visibility, don't. It's not a ranking factor. It is not something that you have to do to get visibility, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. You did need it, or you still need it today to get in the top stories carousel. So if you're a news publisher, you might use AMP to get in the top stories carousel. With the Core Web Vitals and the page experience signal launching in May, you will not need that. You can be in top stories carousel without AMP. So we are finally removing that requirement because we now have a better way of judging if a site is fast in the real world or not. So that's, if you use AMP, use it for the right reasons, which is it's a great framework and it allows you to do cool stuff and it defaults to fast. So if you use it for that, no qualms with it. If you are using it for some sort of SEO magic juice, no, don't. You will be disappointed. And that's something that I have observed on SEO conferences in the last 2 years. Like lots of SEOs were like, oh, we did all this work in AMP and our rankings haven't changed. And we're like, yeah, because AMP is not a ranking factor. Like, what did you expect? Like, we told you that's not the thing. So like, yeah. I'm not surprised, and neither should anyone else. But like you could see, like the sentiment is like, oh, AMP isn't bringing as much advantages as we thought, and I'm like, yeah, but that's because you came with unrealistic expectations. Interesting. Oh, Google Chrome disables translations on AMP websites. That's weird. That sounds like a glitch to me, but I don't know. Hi, Jeannie. Not sure how to pronounce names properly. Are there still plans to badge sites with fast Core Web Vitals like AMP gets? That's interesting. I think we tested that recently. I don't think I have anything to announce yet, but it might be. It might not be. I'm not sure on which grounds would that work. Like, I know we have the thresholds that put you in the good bucket. But I'm not sure what else would be required to get a badge if we do badging. Because I know I had a conversation with Ilya Grigorik on this 2018, so that has been a while. And I'm like, so why are we going? Because like the Core Web Vitals stuff and all the implications in search, that has not happened like magically out of nowhere last year. This has been in the works for quite some time now. Together with the AMP team, together with the Lighthouse team, together with the Chrome team, and other teams as well. And I know that Ilya said, like, okay, so the thing is, the badging for AMP that we tried out turned out to be a huge problem because people interpret, like SEOs and website owners interpreted it as a sign of quality or ranking boost or whatever, which it is not. It is just saying that, oh, we have pre-cached this so you can quickly get to this content. That's all it says. And I can see us trying out the badging again, but I don't know if we have any publicly announceable plans at this point, and I would wait for that to happen in the future if there is something. I dream of Jeannie. Okay, so it's Jeannie. Sorry for butchering your name earlier, Jeannie. What's your view on the newly announced workers' union at Google? Is there anything equivalent in Switzerland? Did Google Switzerland's stance on... Oh, wow. Did Google Switzerland's stance on worker-led meetings change since the polemics of a couple of years ago? I don't know of any polemics, but I think having a union is a good thing. I strongly believe in the power of the collective, and I think having a union is a good thing. I am not part of Google US, and I don't know of the specific US system around unions, so I can't really speak for them, but I think it's a good thing that they're doing this, and it's never a bad thing to like organize if you think something is amiss. For Switzerland, we do have the, oh God, what's it called? We do have a, what's the English term for it? The employee representation board, I think it is called. It's basically like a bunch of people basically a bunch of workers who have been chosen by the workforce here in Zurich. I voted as well as many others, and they are representing us both with in terms of like if we have any specific problems or questions, as well as making decisions together with the site leads for Zurich and Switzerland. I think that's good as well. I think that's a really nice thing. And generally speaking, I think that within Google, we do have a lot of agency and a lot of opportunities to like influence the change we want to influence. And at least in our sub-organization that I work in, which is both DevRel and Search, so the Search ecosystem organization, we hold each other accountable, and we know that we are not perfect. Who is perfect anyway? And we work on improving. So I think I personally don't have any qualms with that. I think the employee representation committee, that's what it's called, ERC. The employee representation committee is a good thing, and I think it is needed in order to like keep everyone accountable for what they're doing. And I think that's a good thing, and it gives us a collective voice, which makes things a lot easier. At the same time, I personally don't see any issues with how our values are being like kept and how we are keeping in check across our values. I recently had an interaction with another team at Google that wasn't flawless, to say the least. And we are bringing this up with our director now, and we'll like have a conversation about this. And I think generally there is constructive movement forward in many regards. But then again, look at me, look at all the privilege I have. I'm very aware of this, and I will use it, and I will continue to use it whenever necessary and possible for those who are less and like empowered, let's say, or they feel less empowered. There have been situations where I'm like, why is it that if we say we want to hire all these people, why is it that I just had a conversation with someone who had an interview with an engineer for an engineering position, and this person has been a jerk? The way that like, I don't know if it has gone down the way that the person who talked to me about this actually has experienced it, but like, if this is, can we please have someone who is impartial in this look at the notes of that interviewer and potentially like retrain that interviewer, because it doesn't sound like that was the kind of experience that we want here at Google. This is not according to our standards. This is not according to our culture or value. So we definitely need to have a look at what's happening. Random article about the issues in ZH. What do you mean? Not sure I follow. But yeah, there had been like, I think it has been blown out of proportion. There was a conversation on how do we address the right. So in Switzerland, okay, so here's what happened, I think last year, if I remember correctly, or maybe like, no, not last year, it's 2021. So 2019, there was a conversation where someone was like, hold on, as per Swiss work law, we have a right to have a representative for the workforce in certain decisions being made in the company. We're not having that. And it was not born out of, oh, we think we need that. It's more like, we can have that, and I can see how this is beneficial. And then someone in the HR part, I think, or basically like in the higher up in another branch of the business, I don't know how to put this, in another department, was like, oh, we're not sure how to do this. I don't know. We'll have to look into this. And then workers here in Switzerland, here in Zurich, were like, oh, it's great that you're looking into this, but we are also looking into this. And then somehow we had two proposals on how to do these things, and we went with what we as the workforce in Zurich wanted. We didn't go with what was proposed by, I don't even know who was proposing it. And that's the result is this employee representation council. And I think that's a good thing. Oh, URL above. So StreamYard does not show any URL here in the chat. So let's see. Top chat. I think I need the live chat for this. Oh, I think YouTube has filtered out the URL because I'm not seeing it in the chat. Strange. Interesting. Yeah, because of spam issues, I think YouTube has stopped allowing just URLs to be posted. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, what other questions do we have in here? Google Ads dynamic search ads can use the Google Index for crawl targeting. What does that mean? I understand the words. I'm just not sure I understand what the sentence means as a whole. Google Ads dynamic search ads. I understand what that is. That's a Google Ads thing, not my department. Don't know. Index for crawl targeting. Is that index the same as the organic index? So we can assess the crawled index using GSC. I don't know. I don't know about Google Ads, to be honest. That's a question for the ads team, not from me. Fun. I'm still not sure if this form automatically updates when someone submits a question through the form, or if I have to actually keep reloading the form. Actually, not the form, the sheet. I have a sheet where the questions come in. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, fun times. And there's like lots of interesting stuff happening, and I'm really, really happy to be back at work now. And I'm really looking forward to the year. We have a bunch of good stuff brewing. And this is my last piece of cauliflower, I swear, for today. For today. Any questions? Anyone in the audience wondering about something? I wonder if this is an issue of like the chat not updating or something. What's the meaning of life? Well, that's a good question. I think for me, it is to try to be as good as I can, to have positive impact on the people around me, and to leave the earth a little cleaner than I found it. At least that's what I'm trying to do. I do lots of cleanups when I'm diving. Always makes me very, very sad. Passage ranking. It'll come out when we announce it. I don't know. If we don't have any public, if we have, this is the interesting dilemma about like predictions in the future. If we have publicly announceable plans, we publicly announce them. If we don't have them because good reasons. So for instance, the request indexing is like, oh, we need to balance this with other things. And then there's like the feature freeze and blah, blah, blah. And so we couldn't really tell when it was rolling out until like some engineer in the Search Console team was like, we can roll out next week and we will roll out next week. And we're like, nice. And that's when we like jumped on and made sure to explain that. You all rock. Thank you very much, Grant. Thank you very much. Anyone here has more questions yet? Or should I just like wrap it up? If not, then I won't wrap it up. I'm also wondering if on Monday I should do another like Among Us stream just for the fun of it, because why wouldn't I? Or any other video game, actually. I don't know. What video game should I play? Should be something fun and interesting. I think like the Diablo one was nice, but Diablo is not necessarily everyone's favorite, I guess. Is there any game that's like just nice and fun to watch? Not a shooter. Shooters are so destructive. I bought a game that is absolutely not fit for that because right now there is a huge... Borderlands is a lot of fun, but it's also a little like... there's blood in it, isn't it? So I think Among Us for now. Maria is casting the only votes here, so Among Us. So I'll do like some Among Us. I wonder if I should do it. Should I do it here on YouTube or should I do it on Twitch again? I think I should do it on Twitch. I have like a second Twitch account, Splitty Plays, just for that kind of stuff. I kind of like my things organized. That's also why I'm like, oh, SEO questions in here, because this is like an AMA where I'm just after work. So like literally my work day is over. I just want to hang out with people as much as I can, which unfortunately is not very much. So, and I miss you all. And I'm like, yeah, if you want to like join my headspace and like ask me some nice questions or just like talk about nice things, then then that would be fun. Yeah, Twitch. I'll use Twitch. I'll announce that on Twitter later. Maybe not today. Maybe like over the weekend, or maybe on Monday morning or something. I don't know. When I'm doing, I could do Stardew Valley as well, which is kind of cute. Also a little bit boring to watch, I think. That is cute, but boring to watch. I think Among Us is a good one, because then everyone who wants to play can actually join as well. We can play as a group, so that's kind of fun. That is fun. Oh God, Dave, you are asking hard questions. How do you handle it when you come across a site where really they just need to give it up and start again? It's harsh advice, but sometimes seems the fair thing to say. But I can only, yeah, this is one of the situations where you kind of lose. Like, it's a lose-lose situation. No one wins. Be gentle is the best I can offer. It's like, okay, look, here's the situation as of now. Everything about this site is problematic. Everything looks bad. And if you would clean up, it would take months and months to ramp back up until the systems and signals are actually pointing in a better direction. Or even worse, like it could be that there's like so much bad things happening to this that you don't even have that much time to wait for this, really. And then it's just like, look, we live, we learn. Take this as a learning example. Try to like extract as much of the good parts of it and then start again. Don't say like, oh, everything's shit and everything's terrible, you shouldn't have done that, because that's not helping. And I think the best way to, like, yeah, guide them is a good way, Dave, to deal with this. Basically saying like, look, this Frankenstein's monster here kind of stumbles on towards a brighter future, but let it go, and let's have a look at what we can take as learnings from here, so that we're not repeating the same mistakes. Because I think that's an important moment. Like the sunk cost fallacy is real. It's like, well, we invested $1 million into this website over the last 10 years. It's like, great. Then at least get our money's worth out of it in terms of lessons in how it happened, like what happened, how it happened, and what can we do to not have it happen again, right? Why it happened, how it happened, what happened. And then take these lessons and then rebuild from scratch. And I think that's a step, because I have been in IT projects that were at this point, and I'm not talking about SEO side, but like literally just the IT side. It was a horrible mess. And I think Eduardo might remember some of these. We used to work together. We took over projects that were in a really, really bad shape. And I remember having conversations with customers myself where I was like, look, there's no way for us to fix this. We have to start from scratch. And unfortunately, I've seen people then, and I've made that mistake myself earlier in my career, where I basically just recreated the thing. Like, I built it new, I built it fresh, and everything was great. But then all the lessons we learned that led to the bad state in the first place were forgotten. In many cases where we took it over from other developers who were not physically present or not present at all, we couldn't learn anything from it because there was no one to learn from. But in other situations, we took code bases in where we had the original developers, and they could tell us, like, I usually then sat down with them before I rewrote the thing anew. I sat down with them and I said, like, okay, so look, these are my problems with this. This is why we can't just copy and paste this. These are the problems. Why is it like this? Because no developer wakes up in the morning and goes like, I'm going to write shit code. And I'm pretty sure like no website owner goes like, I'm going to make a terrible website. They come with good intentions, but there are unknown unknowns, so they don't know any better. And then they find out as they go. And sometimes they paint themselves into a corner where they only discover the unknown unknowns after they have lined up in a long dead end. So guide them through understanding what led them to where they are and what led to the situation they're in right now, and then make a plan on how to avoid this in the future, and then basically set it up anew and basically build it up from the ground again, following the practices you put in place and helping them not painting themselves into the same corner. They might paint themselves into a new corner, but at least, you know, they make new mistakes, not the old ones again. That's kind of, yeah, my advice. And you don't come across as jerk if you say like, look, here's the thing, this is broken beyond repair, but that happened because you were doing a learning process. Now you learned what you needed to learn. You learned the lessons. Let's write these lessons down. Let's analyze what happens and what happened and what we can do differently. And then we implement the new plan so that the money isn't lost. All the things that we invested for learning are now fruitful and actually create a better experience in the long run. And I'm really looking forward to Among Us, Eduardo, on Monday. Yay. Good stuff. And some messenger somewhere made a noise. I'm not sure which messenger that was. And, okay. Okay, that messenger. Oh, that's nice. Oh, great. I just got news that, oh, God. Oh, why did I say yes to this? So next weekend, not this weekend, next weekend, I'm scheduled to do an ice diving course, which I'm really looking forward to because it's going to be amazing. But we go to a mountain lake because we need to be under ice. Surprise, for an ice diver, you need to be under ice. And apparently the place where we will be next weekend currently has -15 to -20 degrees centigrade. Wow. Yeah, there is. Yeah, absolutely. There are always real people who came with good intentions and then things didn't go as planned, or they discovered things as they went along, or things just changed in the middle. Like you have a perfectly laid. That's also why agile methodology makes sense in my book, because if you have like a well-laid plan for the next 5 years, then you either are sticking to the plan and coming out with a perfect result that is now irrelevant to what the reality is, or you are making like hodgepodge on-the-spot decisions and then you come out with a monster. Very, very rarely you come out somehow on the sweet spot where you have a plan and the structure that kind of like gives you a guideline, and then you can roughly wiggle around that and then come out with something good. Whereas in Agile, you say like, okay, we plan, like this is the end goal roughly, but like we only plan out the next couple of weeks or months. So this is what we want to have, and these are the milestones that we want to hit. And then you look at like, does the milestone still make sense? Yes. So the next milestone still makes sense. So we are building this. And then you evaluate again, like, oh no, actually no. We don't sell cars anymore. We now sell drones. And okay, so in that case, we need to revamp a few things. So yeah, I will be guaranteed ice. That is true. Spain is this cold? What? No. How cold is Barcelona, Henning? Hold on. Let me Google that. Weather in Barcelona. Weather in Barcelona. 7 degrees plus. I'm talking -15. Not the same. Oh, you're welcome, Caroline. So yeah, all right. I gotta jump into the. I love that the chat just now came a message like someone's like, it's -15 to -20 degrees, and one of the other people in the course goes like, so, and I'm like, yeah, I mean it's ice diving. We kind of set up for cold. Thanks a lot for joining. Thanks for having so many questions, and for everyone in the chat who contributed. I hope you are having a fantastic weekend ahead. Stay safe, stay healthy. If you like these, I might do them in the future as well. Let me know on Twitter if you enjoyed these or not. And if you do, I might do them in the future as well. I also do the JavaScript SEO office hours, of course, which is more focused on, well, JavaScript SEO, surprise. And we do the podcast. I highly recommend the Search Off the Record podcast as well. But besides just like our team chit chat that we put in the podcast, I'd also try to be chit chatty here so that you get to see the Martin behind the online avatars, and actually we can have a little more human interaction as well. Minus 35 in the mountains nearby. Holy macaroni. Okay, well, that is cold. Yes, Henning, I agree. That is cold. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, Grant. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Caroline. I mentioned, I think. Jeannie. And yeah, I did pitch the podcast. The podcast is awesome because basically when like our producer's like, you should do a podcast maybe, and we're like, yeah, that sounds fun. And I'm like, yeah, and maybe we should just do like what we do when we are in the office together, which no longer is the case. Surprise, surprise. But we basically just like chit chat between the different team members, like John, Gary, and me, and the others. And we are now recording that kind of, and we don't really have a script. We know like roughly what topics we want to talk about, and then everything else is organic, which is kind of fun. Anyway, I gotta run. Have a great time. Bye, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy. See you soon. See you on Monday for Among Us, probably. Bye.